Hello, this is On Imagination with the Healing Garden. I watched Hell's Kitchen last night. I've seen the show before. I love it. And I last watched it 20 years ago, back in 2020. Good God, a while ago when it first came out, literally. And my daughter has recently discovered it and she's like, oh my God. So we were watching it last night and my perspective has drastically changed since I last watched it. And I just sat there smiling through the whole show. And she's like, what is he doing? What is he doing? The master mindset is very, very different from the average Joe mindset. Teaching is not at all what we think it is. We don't. How a person learns is not practiced in our society. I really want you to just sit with that statement for a minute. How a person learns is not practiced in our society. It's not. What they do in schools is not learning. It's not education. I had the rare privilege, by the fate of the universe, that permitted me 7 master teachers. I had a music teacher from Juilliard. I had 2 philosophers. I had a theologian with a doctorate degree in both theology and opera. I had a linguist master, an English teacher, and a history teacher. 7 masters, while I also studied philosophy and Plato's curriculum. To say that I had exposure to quality teaching is an understatement. I was in Allstate, where the composer of the composition that we sang was also the conductor and the organizer of Allstate. And for 3 days, I was introduced to a level of mastery that everyone else was blown away with, but I was used to. The world knows jack and fucking shit about knowledge, education, and teaching. And I'm watching Ramsey, and I know what he's doing. There is the master mindset, and there's everybody else. Everybody else. And I did this. I was here, and I wanted to go here, and I did it. But not everybody does this. In fact, most people are oblivious to this mindset. Most people are in the average Joe mindset, and they don't know it. The average Joe mindset is where you blame people, where you are a damsel who constantly needs help. It is where you're constantly talking about saving people or being saved. And it is also the mindset where everyone's traumatized. While everyone there is trying to survive and live and exist. The master mindset is very different. That master mindset is focused on one question. And it was a question that two of my masters asked of me. Two of my masters really drilled me on. Your standards are here and everybody else is here. It's about your standards. And it's not something you can bullshit yourself. Either you're up here or you're not. This was the very first lesson that two of my masters gave me. And it is one that followed me through every single lesson. It's not negotiable. It was this moment where you sit yourself down and you present to the forefront of your mind, let's talk about your standards on you. It's that moment where you say, all right, it's good enough. And then that voice inside of you goes, yeah, but can you do better? Is that really the best you can do? And there's no one answering for you. There's no one asking this question. There's no teacher holding you to that standard. You are. And either you're honest about this or you're not. The average Joe is clueless about this conversation. It's the Mufasa moment when he says, you are more than you have become. I was 10 when I saw that for the first time, and I went, so when I was 15 and I had the first lesson from the Juilliard master, it was, your standards are one of those things that are with you for the rest of your life. It's in the simple things. And it's in the big things. It's in every little decision. It's in every big decision. It is a skill. And it's also a mindset. It's the question and the realization that at the end of the day, can you live with yourself if you fall short of your own expectations? No, I can't. Bottom line. It's the understanding of the human mind's capabilities. This is the kind of shit people don't know about. The mind is a machine and it's turned off. Masters know how to turn it on. Masters know how to fuel it, and masters know how to steer it. And that is the difference between a master and your average Joe. Ramsey's a master. It's not about the cooking. It's about training average Joe minds to get out of average Joe and to think like a master. The problem is most of those people are consumed with blame and a lack of responsibility. And the only cure for that unearned authority is humility. That's what it is, humility. So the bigger that person feels they are with unearned authority, the more he humiliates them, because that's what they need, because that's how you knock those assholes down. There is equal footing in the world. Equal footing. This is where the master lives. But the master lives up here on equal footing, and he brings everybody up to him on equal footing. Now, if you are at a disadvantage, truly, then the master knows to give their power to the person at disadvantage, to raise them up while he comes down so they can stand on equal footing. This is true mastery. But the others, there are abusive bullies who deliberately steal power from the disadvantage, knocking those people down even further so they can stand on them, so they can elevate them higher. Ramsey only aggressively targets these assholes, the ones who need to be brought down 18 pegs because they have unearned authority that they stole from people at a disadvantage. And a person who's a master who stands on equal footing at the point of truth knows who's the bullshit bully and who's the ones at the disadvantage. Having the conversations that I did with my masters on standards and quality really hit home when it was a massive, what kind of quality are you going to have in your life? It's in the toilet paper you choose. It's in the quality of dishes you buy. It's in the quality of possessions you seek. It's in the quality of ethics you live by. It's in the communities you surround yourself with. It's in every single choice, big or small, that you make for yourself. It's going to reflect one truth about you. One truth: your quality and your standards. And if you take the summation of everyone's life, every single person, you can summarize precisely what quality of life they hold their own lives to, based off of literally what they've surrounded themselves with. And either you have really low standards or you don't. You have mediocrity or you don't. And that's what it comes down to. There are some people who say that mediocrity is good enough. The master says, shame on me. I can do better. And that's the difference. That is the difference. People have mediocrity shit lives because they have low standards. No other excuse. They just have low standards. Now, a person is either going to accept that responsibility or they're going to blame someone else. Period. The end. Because at the end of the day, you chose the people who abused you. You chose to allow them access to you. You chose to not demand better from them. You chose it. And this is the core truth that every person who heals either accepts or they keep blaming everybody else. The only exception is those of us who were abused when we were children, who truly had predators who were at a solid advantage over us and who took advantage of that. And you still have the choice to rise above it and change. So even if you were abused as a child, so was I. It's a mindset. It's that concept, that one point in your life where you realize, yes, I was, and it's not going to change me anymore in that way. And that's the difference between the quality and the standards and everything else. And when you're honest with yourself about whether or not you can do better, it raises your standards. The standards are what propels you through life. It is the only fuel of motivation. There is nothing else. It is truly your standards. If you have low standards, you're going nowhere. If you have high standards, you'll go everywhere. Because your standards aren't going to let you sleep. It's the voice inside of you that's saying, is this really the best you can do? Do you really think that's good enough? Are you really going to settle for this? What are you doing? You know you can do better. Why aren't you? When you learn the problem-solving skill and you partner that with standards, it becomes an amazing, like holy fucking shit. And this is what masters teach. That's the difference. My masters taught me standards. I received a very different education from the rest of the world. My very first lesson was standards. The second lesson I received was logic. Logic is problem solving. It is the science of problem solving and chain reaction so that you can use logic to strategically navigate however you want your life to go, no matter what. so that when you cast a stone, you know exactly where all the ripples are going to go, and you know exactly how to strategically move every single ripple accordingly to get the results you want. And your ethics keep it so you preserve others without manipulation. So between the standards and the logic, the problem solving, you become a powerhouse. When you add communication to that mix, what happens then is your ability to transfer all of this data so smoothly to another person. Discipline is not at all what people think it means. To a master, discipline means skilled to the point of integrated mastery so that you command it. Outside of the master mindset, people think it means abuse. They have no clue, which is why they're not masters. When you choose to become a master, when you choose to be your best, when you choose to raise your standards, the education is entirely different. Ethical leaders really require a different kind of education. Personally, I think everyone requires this education, but blame, damsel, people have got to learn to let go. Possession consumes. It's when the desire and the need and the insecurity masters you. So you either live submissively to your own emotions or you discipline them. We could spend hours, days, weeks, months, years. Tradesmen and average Joes do this, focusing on all the little nuances on how to recover from trauma and mental illness. And it takes up to 20 years if you do it at all. Masters know better. Masters know how to do it in a few months. That's the difference. Because masters know that it's really about standards and problem solving. And that is the cure to mental illness. Standards and problem solving. It's problem solving when you get to a problem. There's two parts of problem solving. The first part of problem solving is prevention. And the second kind is, now that's when you put out the fire. It's when you problem solve in the problem. It's not easy to problem solve inside of the problem. Prevention is much easier. So you have to first problem solve all of the in-problem problems, and then you learn how to prevent the problems, and then you never have problems because you know how to strategically avoid them using chain reaction science and logic. And because your standards are so high, you can see it a million miles away and just navigate around the abusers long before they even have access to you. It is easy. You just don't have the education. Awareness is not the first step to change. That's what ignorant teachers who have no clue how to heal people tell you. Masters know better. Masters know that education is actually the catalyst and not awareness. Awareness is a symptom. You learn that in logic and problem-solving skills. So that when you get to that point where you decide you want to be better, change, have something better, the very first thing you've got to realize is there are two worlds here. Two. There's the world of delusion, which is where you live. It's where we all were born and raised, the world of delusion. And in the world of delusion, there's a lot of fake professionals who have claimed unearned authority, and they're telling a bunch of lies to preserve the delusion so they get to keep the power. What if narcissists were psychologists? What if narcissists got in the government? What if narcissists ruled the educational system of the United States? What do you think that would look like? Think about it. You think those people are absolutely free of narcissism? What would the world look like if narcissists were in charge of the psychology department and the education department of the world? So there's the world of delusion, and then there are the masters who know. And we're not bullshitting over here because we know. And we teach a different education. The education we teach is, number one, standards. Second of all, logic, problem-solving skills. And then we teach you those skills so you can just apply them to yourself. And they are problem-solving skills, communication, and power economics. That's all you need. The concept of spending 12 years grueling over hoarding data and information that you can just Google on the internet, well, that's the delusion. That's not how you learn. There is no such thing as true education in this world right now. There really isn't, because only masters can educate, and there's not very many of those. Authority is a very interesting creature. It truly is. And authority begins with your own self-authority, and you deciding when someone's bullshitting you, and you deciding when you're actually learning quality information. It's the ability to tell where the narcissists are and how they work, how they think. But at the end of the day, there's the delusion, and then there's the real shit. And the real shit is the quality information. Standards, problem-solving skills. It's really all you need. Once you learn those two things, you don't need another teacher for the rest of your life. And wrap your head around this. If that's all you need, then why do we need teachers? We don't. That's why philosophers called themselves philosophers, because they knew there are no such thing as teachers. There's only two teachers in the world, doing and Mother Nature. There is nothing else. And the doing comes in the standards and the problem-solving skills. If you would like to activate the next step in this chain reaction, click on the link below. Thank you so much for your time, and may the kindest of words always find you.